Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Today, our focus is understanding marketing automation. And our point of view today is not about just the tools. Yes, the tools are important, but this is how do you plan to properly implement marketing automation? So it's a strategy first mindset. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can get into the fun. So today, like I said, today is all about understanding marketing automation. And this is about very specifically having a strategy before you start implementing. Because one of the big issues a lot of people see is that when they jump in and start trying to trigger an automation or create a scoring rule or whatever else they're trying to do to make their marketing more efficient, they end up digging themselves into a technology hole. And I want to prevent that for you. So, and I kind of call that the automation trap because automating a flawed process is only going to accelerate your outcome. So, true growth is going to come from having the journey mapped, having a clear strategy, and then configuring your tool. And this is, again, just it's a mindset shift. Instead of focusing on getting that email sequence immediately built and having all that fragmented data and communications and probably lost revenue because you rushed it, we're taking a behavioral strategy first focus. So we're going to understand all the touch points of our people. We're going to have clear criteria. We're going to properly qualify people. And then we know how to automate our communications, our interactions with them. So there are a lot of things that go into your marketing strategy. Today, I'm going to focus on just 3 of those keys to developing a good marketing system that will allow you to automate. And that includes a good journey map, how you prioritize. I'm going to focus primarily on leads, but this also applies to your clients or customers, and then how you segment. Because prioritizing and segmentation are kind of built into your journey map, but looking them at them at 3 separate pieces will help make it an easier process for you. So mapping your customer journey. This is often a step people avoid because it sounds like a huge task. It is, but you don't have to make it too complicated. You can start with something really simple, and you want to have intentional touch points as you go. So when we're creating a journey map, really it comes down to how are you guiding your prospects through very distinct stages from just awareness that you even exist through the purchasing decision and then ongoing retention, turning that into loyalty, turning them into your raving fans who then maybe potentially help you fill the front of your pipeline. So your journey map is where you're going to actually document each interaction you have, when it happens, and how it happens. So this is like the key pieces I want you to have in your journey map. You have stages, you have your touch points, then you analyze the whole thing and make sure at the very end that everything aligns with your brand, that you're not just kind of putting somebody through a factory line just because it sounds like something you Googled or something that AI told you made sense. So step 1, define the customer journey stages. At your most basic level, most people talk about initial awareness or discovery, some kind of research or evaluation stage. Now, this is you putting yourself in the point of view of the prospect, right? The prospect discovers you, they evaluate you, or maybe they research you. And then they just make the decision to buy or not to buy. And then the last is, of course, loyalty. There can be a ton of stages in between there, but those are probably the 4 most basic ones that you should include in your customer journey map. So if you just grab a piece of paper and just scribble those 4 little square boxes, the next step is, well, what are my touch points? How does somebody initially discover me? Are they finding me from a Google search? Are they being referred to me? Did I meet somebody at an event? Did they find me through a paid ad? Document all the different ways that people can just discover you. And let's just talk through the discovery piece because that's a really easy one, right? When they discover you, how do you handle that? How do you handle somebody, I'm going to use the CRM as a great example, right? Somebody is referred to me, they fill out my website form, so that's their first interaction, right? Their first touch is seeing my website. Did my website communicate the information they needed? The second is they filled out my website form. Did the website form make them confused? Was it too complicated? Was it too many steps? Or was it just quick and easy and I got exactly what I needed? What did the thank you page after I submit the form look like? Did I redirect them to a thank you page or just give them a little pop-up? Did I communicate information to them after they submitted that form that makes it clear what the next steps are, what to expect? After they've submitted that form, let's say they get into my CRM. Now I, the salesperson, am aware that this person is interested in working with us. And perhaps in my form, I ask, well, what are you interested in? Now, what is your next step? Do you pick up the phone? Do you have an automated email potentially that goes out to them? Or maybe forget automations. Do you send them an email? Do you pick up the phone? What is the expectation for the next steps? That is the granular detail that we're looking for. And like I said, a lot of people avoid the customer journey map because of these granular details. But I invite you to stop avoiding it because it will give you so much more power and deliver so much more in the qualified result. If you can filter out an unqualified lead early on, it saves you time. And again, this is called marketing automation, but at the end of the day, marketing and sales are intertwined. You have to keep that in mind. So think about all the little touch points that come up. What does it take for someone to convert from initial discovery to evaluation, right? Maybe initial discovery is just them Google searching you, seeing you have good reviews, right? And maybe the research evaluation is them filling out your website form because they've decided they do want to interact with you. So those little touch points I described, it's important to document them. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't have to, like I said, you can scribble it on a piece of paper at first. And after you have those touch points, after you've documented all the stages and all the touch points at each stage, I want you to analyze it. I want you to go and look at it closely. What is the customer's path? Does it change depending on how they came into maybe your CRM? Does it change based on what their needs are? If you sell a physical product or service, does it change on what product or service they're interested in? What are those variables that maybe change the path from this way to that way? Because at the end of the day, your goal is to make people feel like it's a natural process, that it wasn't forced, it wasn't disjointed, there wasn't communication breakdowns in between. And the last part, and this is a part that actually often gets stepped over, is alignment with your brand promise. I put this in here because of my background in marketing, frankly. You know, a lot of people do those first three steps: stages, touch points, analyze it. Is it any good? It's the content of your email, if the content of your website conflicts with each other, people are going to notice. So if one of your core values is consistency and you're inconsistent in your brand communication, it's going to be noticeable. So make sure that you have someone on your team, anyone, who can look at it from the perspective of, does this seem consistent across the board? Are they communicating to me in the same style the whole way through? Because that disjointed feeling is just going to make them feel like they cannot trust you. Because if you cannot be consistent in the basic introduction to your brand, why are they going to trust you to purchase your product or service? And just to give you an idea, this is a really old customer journey map, crazy simple one. This is just, and actually this is not that simple, but you know, the initial need or pain, what is it? What investigation did they do? You know, an online search, they asked somebody, they went to an event, they became aware of you. This is when I got a little bit more granular, right? They attended the event and met you. They got that referral. They did an additional online search. Now they know they're interested. So they read your blog post or they downloaded your free resource. They signed up for the consultation, or I wrote here, coffee meeting, just different ideas, right? Now they're ready. They're a serious prospect. This is usually the conversion from marketing to sales, right? So how do you qualify them? What are your steps in qualifying that this is someone who matches your business? What are the emails, the price quote experience, all that stuff? And this was like the whole free consultation. Like, are they a fit? Do they want consulting? Do they want training? And based on that path, they might go in a different way, right? And same thing with interest. If they're not yet ready, you can nurture them. If they're not interested, you can hand them off to somebody else. This is just to give you an idea of how simple it can be to document your journey map, and how it can be worth it, because now you have the opportunity to say, oh, I could have automated an email that said, hey, you should read our blog post based on this criteria I saw in the CRM record. So before I move into like our journey to automation, are there any questions about making your journey map? Like, is it clear? Is it confusing? Are you ready to do it? I think we're good.
Yep, we're good.
Excellent. So the journey to the automations, right? So now that you have that journey map laid out, right? We know about awareness and interest and purchase, retention, advocacy. This is like another way of having different stages. And again, people call stages by all sorts of different names. Now at each stage, identify what is your trigger event. So like during the initial discovery qualification, a lead is created. That's my trigger. When a lead is created in my CRM, you know, that's their interest maybe. You know, what are the conditions of my automation? Well, if their source is website form and their company size is at least 50, maybe that means that they're qualified for something. Okay, great. What action do you want to automate? I want to send them an email with my calendar link, and then I want to make a task for my sales rep to pick up the phone and call them one day after I sent that email. And then what is your follow-up logic? Maybe you're going to wait 48 hours. If the meeting is booked, you exit the flow. If the meeting is not booked, send a reminder email. And coming back to those conditions, maybe they filled out the website form, but their company size is less than 50 employees. So you want to treat them differently, right? Now you know there's two different flows from that same trigger. You can have multiple conditions with multiple actions to follow up. This is how you have to shift your mindset, right? Thinking about the stage, then the trigger event, then the conditions, etc.
Okay, before we continue, I do have one question. What is a DIFY agency?
Oh, do it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was from that journey map. Yes, a do it for you agency. So that was for a marketing firm that didn't want to be a do it for you. They wanted to be more consulting, which is why they had that on there. So before you actually, another step to take, minor, but not so minor in importance, is your data hygiene. So garbage in makes garbage out, as we all know. So make sure that when you're ready to automate, that you've standardized all your input fields. So do things like use pickless fields instead of an open text field, especially in those website forms, right? That's going to help you prepare for segmentation. If you can automate filling in fields whenever possible, do it. You can use data enrichment. And at the end of this, we can talk more about AI and data enrichment. You can implement score decay, and I'll get into that with lead scoring, where you maybe reduce points over time. So an inactive lead, it lowers their score. Also define things like your sales terms, right? How do you explicitly define where sales is handling it, where marketing is handling it? What is a qualified lead? What is a prospect? Make sure all those terms are clear in your CRM so that when you go to do things like automations or prioritizing or segmentation, it's very clear what everybody means. Scoring rules. I am very surprised by how many people do not leverage, especially in Zoho CRM, scoring rules. I mean, and this is actually out-of-date data at this point, because it's like, I think from 2 years ago, but Marketing Sherpa did a report that showed that Companies that used scoring rules had a 77% higher ROI because they were nurturing the right people. And then another study found, again, from Marketing Sherpa, another study found that 68% of high-performing marketers attributed their success to lead scoring. So lead scoring is exactly what it sounds like. It is assigning a score to someone based on fields and behavior. So let's look at how we do that. There's traditional, and then there's the AI powered. So in traditional lead scoring, and hopefully you can kind of see my screen, these are screenshots of the lead scoring rules in Zoho CRM. These are just examples. So like when the lead source is a referral, either client or partner, add 5 points. If their budget is actually filled in, give them points. If their status is no response or junk, subtract points. You can already start to see how you can lay out giving people points, taking away points, just based on basic fields. If you're targeting maybe certain cities, you can give them points. If they opt out, of course I'm going to take points away. And on the right, these are more behavioral, right? So these are CRM emails. Important. Scoring rules in Zoho CRM depend on you sending emails out of the CRM to properly function. Because if you're sending it out of your regular inbox, you cannot tell when it's been opened or clicked or bounced necessarily. So every time an email is opened, give them a point. Every time they click a link, give them 5 points. When an email bounces, subtract points. Zoho Survey is integrated. Facebook is integrated. Zoho Campaigns is integrated. These are all behavior-based scoring that you can set up at any time. And the nice thing is, if you don't have it already set up, you can actually set it up and have it run on existing records. Now that won't work with the behavioral triggers, but it will work with the field triggers. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, please put a question. And then there's the Zia powered scores. So with Zia, that's Zoho's AI, you can say, hey Zia, I want you to help me come up with a score. You can do it based on conversion, engagement. I don't even remember all the options, but it gives you different options. And then all you have to say is, who are my ideal records? So you're trying to educate or train a Zia, like who your best people are and who your worst people are. And that's what this is. Who are my ideal records? Who are my non-ideal records? The nice thing is you can include both field level things and related modules, meaning, did I place a phone call with this person? Did that phone call last more than 5 minutes? If yes, maybe that's a good sign. If no, it's a bad sign. And then you can even put that as a score on their record. So now you can actually run both, right? You can make your own manual score. You can make a Zia score, run them both, see how they work out. But the nice thing is you'll end up seeing a score on their record. So here's like a lead scoring rule, 0 positive, 0 negative, 21 touch point scores. Oops, sorry, it went the wrong way. In this case, this person had 0 for their Zia score, but their overall score is 21. And over time, you'll be able to go into your leads, as the example, and you can sort them with the highest score at the top. So instead of worrying about that guy who's got 2 points, you focus on the guy who's got 68 points, or the one who's got 37 points. And look at their lead status and decide how you want to manage those relationships. You can also trigger your automations in the CRM from your lead scoring rule. So you can say, when the lead score goes above 30, I'll make up a number, trigger this email. And maybe your condition is if they don't already have a lead status of meeting booked, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. This is another way of triggering marketing automation and also communicating with your sales team. These are people to look at and prioritize. And that kind of leads us into segmentation. You can segment your leads and clients or customers any way you want. It really depends on your business and what matters most. But segmentation is important when it comes to marketing automation, because sending the same blanket email or SMS message or making the same sales call to all the same people doesn't make sense. People expect a customized experience. So in this example, I pulled a report because that is the first thing I'm going to tell you. If you don't know how to segment your data, start by looking at reports on the information that's most important to you. In this pretend report, I looked at my top customer accounts, right, by industry. Where did I make the most money? So I made a report that said, show me my top accounts, right? So it's already filtered to show the ones that make the most money. This is demo data, just so you know. And now show me them by industry and then by what state they're in. And in this case, it looks like it is the manufacturing industry and it has no billing state. We'll pretend it's the state of Texas, right? So now I can say to myself, wow, manufacturers in Texas are a great target for me. What messaging can I sculpt in my marketing automation that will really speak to them? Because they have a high conversion rate for me. I want to make sure I make it customized. So maybe you won't like thoroughly segment every little industry, every little state, but at the very least, pick your top ones and make really custom communication for them. Because in this case, I might say, all right, manufacturing, consulting, and government military are my 3 biggest industries. I really want to make targeted messaging for them. And maybe everybody else I can put into a more general category. This already is making my marketing automation strategy smarter because I took the time to make sure my data was clean and to properly segment it in a way that's related to my ROI. So I want you to use scores and your fields to segment. So you can use the scoring rules and the fields to reflect your success, right? Look at those scoring rules in your customer accounts to identify the best clients or customers. And then you can go back to that customer journey map, rethink how leads are going through, make those segmented marketing journeys. Is there a way that you can better segment your nurture campaign for the people who weren't interested? Oh, well, they fall into a certain industry. So now I know that they need communication that relates to their industry or maybe their state or the product they're specifically interested in. Think about the different ways you want to manage your leads or prospects in different ways. That is what is going to serve you best. And now you can go back and update your journey with the right automations instead of just the impulsive ones, right? So you're going to use your segments to make customized experiences. You're going to think through the timing and the triggers because you can also pull reports on things like that. And then you can adjust your actions to adjust the email copy or maybe change the timing of that task or whatever other follow-up actions you are setting up. And that is everything. Thank you all. If you have follow-up questions, feel free to email me. Have a wonderful rest of your day.